Welcome to another episode of the Fanzone Podcast, your home for all things Bolton Wanderers, up the Trotters, the Northwest's #1 podcast.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Welcome back to another episode of the Fanzone Podcast. We're back again, episode 25. And what an episode we have in store for you. Unfortunately, not a 3-point podcast, as Colin would have wished for. But all the same, we're going to crack on. It's only right we start with our post-match reactions, as always. If you are watching at home, make sure you pop in your comments and let us know what you thought of the game as we go along. But we'll hand over to you, Ange. What did you make of the game on Saturday?
Oh, well, I'm blaming Colin for his positivity.
Yeah, don't worry, it's not around this week. Game week, you want to call it.
It was so bloody frustrating, and I feel like I've said that a lot recently. I thought that we didn't do the basics well. There was nothing, there were no bells and whistles at all with Ipswich. I think they just did the basics really, really well. There was so much slicker in transition. They wanted it more. They had so much energy. And we just looked absolutely exhausted. We just looked physically and mentally drained, like the decision-making, sloppy passes. It was absolutely our own undoing that yesterday. I don't think we got outplayed. Ipswich played better. And those goals that we conceded were terrible. Absolutely terrible. So a misplaced pass and an unmarked header, it's the basics. It's doing the basics poorly. I'm still positive. I'm still optimistic. I think Ipswich and Sheffield potentially for us were obviously the two trickiest matches, even though Ipswich were at home, of what's left. So I'm not losing the playoff faith just yet. But yeah, absolutely. They need like a bog wash or something. They just need their heads sorting out. That is all.
It was certainly a disappointing result. One that I think, some fans were expecting, but all the same, it doesn't make it any easier. It was a tough one to take, and I agree with you absolutely that although I don't think necessarily we were outplayed as such, but Ipswich just did the basics right and got all of those little things right that ultimately on the day we didn't. And those games happen. Colin, what did you make of it though?
So obviously, usually I'm pretty positive and enthusiastic and whatnot around even results that might not necessarily gone our way, because I see things that I like and all that type of malarkey. But yesterday, I just it was a bit of a realization moment, really, that we are not quite at the level that we think we are as fans in terms of the opposition when we come up against the likes of Ipswich and Sheffield Wednesday. I'm not going to start blaming budgets, and I'm not going to start blaming, what these teams are paying the players and so forth. But there was a massive gulf yesterday in class. However, I am in agreement with Ange in terms of the basics. That's very true. I'm also in agreement with a comment pretty much instantly that got put on the chat by Brandon saying Ipswich absolutely dominated in the middle of the park for every ball. Games are won and lost in midfield. We're missing, and we have been missing for a good while, really, a dominant midfielder. Is it Morsey, the midfielder yesterday?
Yeah.
So you can tell he obviously he's got that a bit of a grip between his teeth, and he's that tough tackling midfield user, but a bit like a similar type of player to Jay Spearing was when we first got hold of him. We need that snap and that bite in midfield, somebody who can win them battles, and we're reliant too much upon Carl Dempsey in that regard. Who, you know, he's a little bit. He's not quite that type of player, is he? Really, as much as we think he is. But yeah, we several loose passes. That was disappointing. Obviously, that, you know, the first goal stemmed from that. Got to give credit to their keeper as well. You know, he made 2 vital saves. Obviously, the save from penalty and Dion Charles is, you know, something that completely changed the whole dynamic of the game. But also, probably more importantly, on Conor Bradley in the first half. He's racing through one-on-one, and he makes a phenomenal save with his left hands. So yeah, them type of moments, it is gutting, but I think it just makes us realise that we're not where we think we should be. We always got to stick together, really. Obviously, on the press conference last Thursday, Everett was saying before the game against Ipswich that he wants the stadium to be a cauldron of atmosphere and noise and positivity, and it's just not that. It's just not that, and I'm fully on board with what he was saying in terms of the effect that the fans. I've said it several times on this podcast. Make sure you go and turn up, be positive, back on, support them, don't groan, don't mourn. As annoying as it is, and then obviously we're all passionate about our club, and you know you do get on edge and stuff like that, but it doesn't help at all. Especially the way we play and what we're trying to achieve as well with the ball coming out from the back.
Really flat atmosphere yesterday.
Yeah, it's flat. It's flat, but even when it's not flat, the only noise you hear is groans and moans, and it's ridiculous. And I don't know why and where it comes from. We've got probably one of the best home records in the league. We very rarely concede goals at home. It should be the opposite of that. It should be pure positivity. You know, we should be relaxed in them environments. But yeah, I'm all for what Everett was saying personally. But overall, poor performance. Just a few bits and pieces I want to elaborate on, but obviously we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, bit gutty really.
Absolutely, I would definitely tend to agree with that. Brandon has actually put another comment on, and he said, "I really don't think we are what we're cracked up to be." Can
I just say that he's right? We're not, and I've just said exactly that. But that doesn't mean that we're a bad side. Do you get what I mean? So just because we aren't as what we think we are and what we think we probably should be, that doesn't make us a bad team whatsoever. We're still a very good team, and we're still doing very well considering our budget and where we're at and stuff at the moment. Got to remember, it's only our second season back in League One from League Two. Do you get what I mean? So there is a lot to be positive about.
It's such a bloody tough league. It's took massive clubs years and years to get out of this league. And I know you said you weren't going to bang on about budgets and stuff, but that Ipswich squad yesterday, I think they spent something like 2 million in the January transfer window. It's like, you can't be spending that much money and not be going up. That's just not sustainable whatsoever. So, and I think this comes back to the point when we asked that question on the pod, it's a good few weeks ago now, about do you think we'll go up? And I was like, my heart says yeah, my head says no, because for me, we're just not. It's like you say, it's our second season, and we've got players who I don't think will cut it and are still on contracts. I just worry. It worries me that we'll just be getting these results week in, week out. And as much as I would be over the moon if we did, I would still be really worried about going up.
I think it's a good point, and that topic of budgets, even though I think quite a lot of the time we're very keen to say we're not going to talk about budgets. You have to. You can't ignore it when you look at the fact that the teams in and around us are spending significant amount of monies in the transfer windows. You can't really just sweep over it. It is a conversation that has to be had, although it doesn't sort of take away from poor performances. When poor performances happen, it doesn't matter what money you're spending. There isn't really many excuses for it. But in the grand scheme of things, where you look at the playoff spots, that conversation definitely needs to be had. An interesting comment from Dan. Oh, go on, Ange.
Sorry, I was just going to mention about the fans leaving early thing. I don't know if that's what you were picking up on, Ben, but it was from about 76 minutes yesterday that they were, and I was like, oh, Jesus, it's even a bit early for our lot to start.
That's because the team has created that expectation at home. So obviously, yesterday did not go according to plan whatsoever. So naturally, people are going to get frustrated and they're going to leave, aren't they? Early. Whether you class that as being a poor supporter or not a proper fan or however you want to term it, a lot of it will be through sheer frustration because they expect us to be getting results at home.
But then I've sat in that stadium at 88, 89, 90 minutes and we've scored 2 goals. So I just, for me, I can't do it. I think
I'm in agreement.
Whistle.
But you got to look at it from a...
You didn't feel it coming yesterday.
Well, exactly, yeah. It's, several hundred, probably 1,000 people probably thought the same thing as well.
Yeah, indeed. It's a strange one, though. I mean, I personally don't see much point in it, although after sitting in the car park for the best part of an hour yesterday, I can sort of understand why at 2-0 down some fans headed for the exits. Cause
you had a right bumper-to-bumper rant yesterday on Twitter.
I did, honestly. If you're one of them on the car park, if you're watching this and you were in the car park on Saturday and at the end of the game, you sat so close to the car in front, someone couldn't walk through it, and you didn't let anyone out, you just need putting down. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
Brandon's just put a good comment on there, and he said people need to back them and clap them off, show you are with them, not just piss off because you don't want to queue up, which is a really good point,
Pretty cold yesterday as well, though, weren't it? That's another thing. It was very cold yesterday.
It was.
I'm not making excuses. I'm just looking at it from a different point of view. That's all.
Always feels colder at the Reebok, no matter where you are. It's like an ice rink in there. But yeah, I think it's a good point. That support and that backing needs to be there. Everett has said it a number of times. The players have said it themselves. That atmosphere is what drives them on to get results. And it hardly takes much to give a little sing-song every now and then. So just back the lads. It's not too much of a task. But moving slightly on, Deck John wasn't in the squad. Gethin Jones moved over to that left wing-back role. What did you make of Jones's performance and John's absence, Colin?
I feel a bit sorry for Gethin Jones because I think because he's such a 7 out of 10 man and he's so versatile in terms of where he can play across the back 5 or within a 3 or whatever you want to call it. He often obviously gets pulled out of position. Now, I thought yesterday he didn't play his best, but credit him for coming out into the press afterwards and facing it up, so to speak, because I guess he probably did that not only because he's a vice captain, but he probably recognised it probably one of his better performances. So fair play to him in that respect. What I would say is, and I'm not going to stick up for Mbete here, but when they scored their first goal, when I watched the highlights back, I think it highlighted to me that why playing a player so much out of position, i.e., on the left as somebody playing left wing back when he's a right-sided defender. And Mbete, if you watch it back, he tries to play the pass onto Gethin Jones' right side, but Gethin makes an outside movement as in he was going to go around the left. And Mbete obviously didn't pick it up, and that's why he obviously intercepted it, and that's when they went and scored. I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just saying that when he's played significantly out of position like that, it just throws everything out of sync. I think he wouldn't be playing there if we had Iredale available and George Johnson available. It's just unfortunate that they're not. His performance wasn't the best, but I hope I've made sense of what we're trying to say there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point. I think I did notice that when I was watching it, not in the first instance, but when I watched the replays of the goals, it just seemed to be that relationship between the left centre half and the left wing back just isn't there, and it hasn't been for so long for a number of reasons.
But it won't be as long as we keep chopping and bloody changing. It's like it takes time to build up a relationship to that point where they know where each other's going to be.
Yeah.
And it's just changed all season, hasn't it? I mean, for one reason or another, but I don't bloody know why you wouldn't have had Deck even on the bench. I don't know why he's left him out completely.
Well, he isn't good enough defensively, is he? That's why.
Yeah, but none of them were good enough defensively yesterday.
Well, I know that in the benefit of hindsight, that's right. But at the time, before he picked the game, he knows that Gethin Jones isn't good enough. Sorry, Declan Dunn isn't good enough defensively to play up against the winger. I can't remember his name. His name's passed me, but he's obviously dead quick and direct, and he can play across both sides. Anyway, that's why he didn't pick him. We've spoke about this in the past, haven't we? About Declan John when he wasn't in the team, about how defensively he's a bit of a liability. Up against one of the better sides, it's probably not a risk he didn't want to take. I'm guessing.
I think we saw it against Portsmouth as well. That change was made in a result to a tactical change to try and combat what the opposition could offer. I think against Portsmouth, it was the fact that we were going to be hit with long balls, and the ball was going to be in the air a lot, and Gethin offered more in the air than John. And I think Everett reasoned with it and said that this time it was because, as you said, Colin, they wanted to deal with Ipswich winger. I mean, obviously it didn't really pan out that way, but those things happen. And in hindsight, anyone can say that John should have been in the team, or even Randall Williams should have started. You can say what you want, but it's difficult that those decisions are difficult. And if he makes if it works out for Everett, then everyone calls him a genius. But if it doesn't, then everyone's saying, "No, well, you should have done this instead." It's easy to say that after the game, but before the game, it's anyone's guess what's going to happen.
So yeah, thank you. I think Chris Dawson's made my point much better than me there. Like, he's put Georgie T on the bench for why, and no space for Deck to change it if needs be. I think that was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Yeah, it is a good point, really. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he wants George Thomason to pick up minutes more because he's going to be critical, I think, over these next few weeks, isn't it? It's really good that he's back, actually, because we're missing legs in that end of the park. We said this on one of the last podcasts, actually.
I just hope to God Georgie J's back for Wembley.
Oh, he said he's back. He said he's back for Friday for the Sheffield Wednesday game. Before this game.
Yeah, I think Everett was confident that both MJ and George will be back for the game against Sheffield Wednesday, but definitely ruled them out prior to Ipswich. So hopefully we'll see them both.
Well, you might want to see them both. I don't necessarily want to see them both.
Well, I mean, perhaps not in the starting lineup, but on the bench, perhaps. I mean, for Johnston especially, I think I'm confident that he's one of very few players that can just come straight back into the team and resume business as usual.
Let's hope so. Let's bloody hope.
Yeah, or at least I hope that's the case.
Yeah, I think as well with that, when he's fit and obviously moving Gethin Jones over to the right, that partnership between Conor Bradley and Gethin Jones works. You can see there's a continuity between the two of them, and likewise on the left with Johnson and whether it be Declan John, to be fair to him, when he's playing alongside Johnson, it allows him to express himself a little bit more, doesn't he? And obviously he's able to cover better because Mbete is obviously suspect at the moment, isn't he?
Indeed. I just hope to God that he comes back and he's back up to speed as quick as possible. Just on that, George and MJ obviously hopefully back in the squad. Where do you sort of put MJ in this starting 11, or do you keep him on the bench? I'm going to give it to both of you because it seems to be one that in the comments is dividing opinion. Dan Sumner has said, as much as I think we're in a post-MJ era now, yesterday was a perfect game we needed him for, which is a good point. That post-MJ era, I think, in the games where the midfield is very, lucid and fluid, that is the common feeling. But in the scrappy games like yesterday, we were just completely out-muscled, out-legged, out-fought in the midfield. And perhaps that's where MJ could have, stepped up. But Hayden's just said we missed MJ at Morecambe too. So I'm going to...
We've been missing him for weeks. I don't see what the negativity is towards the lad. he's never put a foot wrong in my eyes.
I just think he's not necessary. I always feel he's half a yard behind the pace. I just don't feel he's quick enough. Yeah. And against those better players, I don't think he's quick enough in his decision making.
Yeah, but there aren't many better. There aren't many better teams that we're going to come up against it regular, is there?
No, so maybe now towards the end of the season, it would be a decent time for him to come after Chef on the bench for Chef. I don't start him. I wouldn't start him. That's my idea.
No. Well, he's not going to start him, is he, against Sheffield Wednesday? Because obviously he's been out for such a long time. But it'd be nice for him to get minutes and then maybe B team game the following week and then get him involved for the last 8-9 games of the season. Absolutely. Yeah, get him in the mix because we're short in midfield massively. So we didn't lose that game because of the midfield battle, but it was a massively contributing factor towards the reason why we lost that game yesterday.
Indeed. Everett's got a tough one on his hands should everyone be back and ready. Another potential candidate to start is Cameron Jerome. He had a cameo after coming back from injury yesterday.
Nearly scored.
Say again?
He nearly scored.
He did, yeah.
Would have been a consolation. Again, keeper again. Quality save on his front post. He had a good game, that keeper yesterday.
He's a massive dude, that keeper.
I was going to call him a lanky streak of...
he was a big boy, wasn't he?
He was indeed. It's a topic we'll get onto later, just in terms of who starts, but something to think about. And I'm sure Everett will be perhaps relishing in that selection headache. But it would be nice to see some consistency in that starting 11 if we can just be injury-free for just a little bit of time. That would be wonderful.
I think he got his lineup wrong yesterday, didn't he? Everett. I think if he's reflecting on it today, he'd probably admit that, I would imagine. Kieran Lee should have played yesterday, and I can't for the life of me see why he didn't. But yeah, I think he probably got his selection wrong yesterday.
It may be an accumulation of minutes that he's put in the tank.
Yeah, but he didn't play against Morecambe, did he? He's had a rest there. He hasn't. Prior to Morecambe, yeah, obviously he played quite a bit, but he's had a couple of weeks. Well, that'll be his second week off now, won't it?
It's a good point. Maybe he might be carrying an knock.
We don't know, do we?
I do agree with you. I think in hindsight, again, would have put Lee in that 10 role over Shola, who did seem to go a little bit missing. And were you going to say something?
Yeah, it just sprung back to me yesterday when he brought Kieran and Cam on. I was like, right, he's bringing some old heads on just to calm them all down, and they went even more headless chicken. It shocked me how that 5 minutes or so after they came on, I was like, what are they doing? What is going on?
The game had lost, their heads are gone.
They completely lost their heads.
Yeah, but again, the crowd doesn't help, does it? Like going 2-0 down and all that. But yeah,
secretly hoping that none of those 3 Northern Irish lads get any game time because they need a bloody rest.
Yeah, they'll definitely get game time, won't they? Because it's very important fixtures, aren't they, for them, for Northern Ireland? It's just the way it is, isn't it?
It would be just our luck. I don't want to manifest it if you believe in that sort of shite, but honest to God, it would just be our luck. Dan Sumner has put a comment on, and he said, have players got an eye on Wembley and fearful of injury or suspension? Some players won't get that chance to play there again, which is a good point again. For the likes of the players that are perhaps...
an even better point by Danny below half of the team can't bloody play. They're all cup time.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking there. That I swear that was exactly what was going through my head. That's not even an excuse because half of them can't play, can they?
Yeah.
So that's a moot point, as they say.
Yeah, fair enough.
So those boys that can't play Wembley, the league is your only. Yeah, that's your. I mean, I know they'll get the trophy for whatever. I don't even know if they would. Did they even get a medal if they've not played at all? I don't know. Probably not. But that's what they should be concentrating on, the league, isn't it? I don't know.
Bread and butter in it as well, you know.
Yeah, it's your bread and butter.
Just before we move on to Fanzone Man of the Match, which is a tough pick this week, Chris Dawson has put a comment on the live and he said, is there a point to raise about the dip in Toll's form since Santos returned? He looks so assured alongside Aimson. I've given it some thought, and I think my reasoning, or if you want to call it that, or my point of view is that if you look at the fixtures that Aimson was playing in, instead of Santos, and the type of players we were coming up against, compare that to the run of form we've had, the run of games we've had recently, and the amount of games in such a short period of time, and that for me is the reason that perhaps Toll's maybe been off the mark only in the last couple, I think.
Yeah.
I think his distribution has been off it, but
The last
everything
couple of
else, I wouldn't have put. I mean, Santos has been back a while.
Yeah,
so it would seem unfair to rule out, maybe 6 or 7 games when only 2 or 3 have perhaps been off it, so to speak. What do you both think, Ange?
It's definitely. I don't think it goes as far back as Santos coming back into squad, but certainly the last couple of games. I mean, the lad could be just knackered. This is what worries me about that he's been getting that call up, but then. I mean, depending on if he's been watching his last few games, he might not bloody get on the pitch because he's passing and his choice of pass has been less than 5.
It just shows, doesn't it, though? Like, the lads come from Irish football. Nobody knew him from Adam. Next minute we're thinking he's the best thing since sliced bread, and then within a couple of games he's got
shite again.
Shite distribution. You know what I mean? It's very recent.
This is why we are where we are, because we're inconsistent as a team. We're so inconsistent that we're even looking at Dempsey yesterday. Didn't have a great match, and he's been our most consistent player the past couple of months. As a Moz has just gone a little.
Are we inconsistent if we start 5th, 4th, 5th, 6th in the league?
Individual players.
Oh, individually.
Yeah, individual players. We've got too much individual inconsistencies to be getting any better than where we are currently.
Do you think? I'd be interested to get people's thoughts on this on the chat as well. Like, do you think it's we've put too much into the EFL trophy? Because if you look back at the season, we were playing strong teams right at the start of the competition. So is that a contributing factor? I'm not talking about the fact that we're in the final. I'm on about like the whole competition and the focus on it. And is the focus on it because it's extra revenue and we want to win it because it's going to help towards budgets? Do you get what I mean? Is that why they're so intent on winning it, or is it because it's just a cup and he wants to win it and ICV, or I don't know? Do you get what I'm saying?
He's not made any kind of apology for playing good sides, has he? He's said he's doing it. He's in it to win it. If we're going out playing there. Whereas the season before we didn't, did we? We definitely played. Certainly against the under-21s, because we even put full strength sides out against the under-21 teams, didn't we? It's a good point that you raised, but I think sometimes I wonder, is he trying to give us something to kind of cheer about and be excited about, and has he lost sight of the bigger picture a little bit? I don't know. Maybe.
It is an interesting point. I think just on that terms of inconsistency, I absolutely agree with you that there are lots of individual inconsistencies, but that as a whole makes the group inconsistent, whether it be because of injuries. There is a significant lack of consistency in terms of both performance and results. You look at games like, I don't want to jog your memories back, but Forest Green and Cheltenham, it's results like that are the difference between, a side looking ready for promotion and a side that perhaps aren't. And, those inconsistencies need to be ironed out if we are serious about setting our sights for the Championship. You can't win them all, but it's the performance that matters. And in those games, so far off.
Sorry, Ben, I'm keep interrupting you. But I know people are saying, "Oh, we can't win against the top 6 or whatever." They're the teams I would expect us not to win against. That's why they're the top 6 teams. And that was my point on the inconsistency thing, that we're inconsistent against better opposition. I would be more ready for inconsistent against lower opposition, but we were. Forest Green, for God's sake, they're like clinging on to for dear life, and they've got the hardest run coming up, those lads, haven't they? So God help them.
Indeed. Some good points and some really, really good points coming in on the live chat. If you contributing...
Can I interrupt you very quickly, Ben?
You can indeed.
Where we're going here now? I've just seen it. Danny's put to Chris, Colin's blood is boiling. It's not. I'm annoyed after yesterday, and I'm missing the fact that automatic is a pipe dream now, and that's gone. But I'm also very hungover, Danny. So
he's hanging. He's hanging the line.
I am annoyed, and I'm sorry if I don't sound as enthusiastic and tone driven as I normally am, but I'm hanging.
I think that was also in reference to Chris's comment about Aimson being a better mentor than Santos for tolls.
Oh, well, that's a lot of bollocks. I didn't even say that. But yeah. I'm sure he said that just to try and wind me up, because he did. Because Winters had 2 bad games, and Santos has been back for about 2 months, hasn't he? So anyway.
But yes, looking ahead to, in fact, we'll go back and we'll do the Fanzone Man of the Match.
Thought you'd forget about that.
I could have done, but we're going to do it. Colin, do you want to start us off? I mean, there's not much.
Yeah, I will actually. People will probably go, what? But I'm going to give it to Victor Adebayo, because I thought yesterday he probably had his best game for us. Put himself about, held the ball up well, won us free kicks, tried very, very, very hard, didn't get it rubber with the green, but it was about the only one, I mean, maybe Connor Bradley as well, that I could say it was, I'd mud on the shorts type of thing. So yeah, I felt for the lad yesterday, because he's obviously, it's a bit of a tireless job against a good team like that, or a team that we made to look really good. Didn't even look good at the start. That was another thing that were annoying me yesterday. Like, they must have played about 4 or 5 balls out of touch, and I was like, they're not even that good, these. Anyway, but yeah, I'm personally, I'm going to give it to Victor. I thought he did quite well yesterday in a shite game.
Ange,
I'm proper. I'm struggling. I'm really struggling.
I'll take over. I'm going to give mine to... I think I'm going to give mine to Victor as well. I thought in terms of perhaps work rate, work ethic, and what I want to see from him playing alongside Charles, I thought that was probably the best example he's given us. Possibly like that end product, but...
You didn't get a chance, though, did he?
Say again?
He didn't get a chance, though, did he? To show his product?
No, not really. He didn't. Yeah.
The four was only as good as the chances that are created for him, aren't they? There was nothing, were there?
Yeah. There was no service.
I'm interrupting you, sorry, but I've just seen a point. It's hard to keep in touch with all these chat. It's good, but it's hard.
You're very, very chatty tonight. I feel like
I love it. I do love it, but it's hard. So when I'm trying to pay reference to good points that are made. Brandon again, he's on fire today. Felt for the strikers chasing absolute shadows, and that's exactly what my thought process was. And sorry, carry on, Ben.
No, exactly. I mirror that absolutely. I thought his hold-up play was perhaps some of the best we've seen against a really physical backline for Ipswich, and there were some sections of his play that were really promising. And have you given it?
Do you know what? I'm going to full house it. I'm going to go Victor. Yeah.
Would you believe it?
You both convinced me.
Would you believe it that in perhaps one of the most disappointing results or performances perhaps in recent weeks that this is the time that we get a full house.
Full house, yeah.
We
were also talking about 5 minutes ago whether we should be playing Cameron Jerome or not. Does that mean Dion Charles gets dropped?
Never.
Is that a rhetorical question?
Never for me.
Are we playing three up front?
Maybe we should give it a whirl.
I don't think. Do you think Cam's got 90 minutes in him though? I don't think he's probably got 90.
He's not long back from injury, is he?
He's just had that back spasm, hasn't he?
Nah, he won't play 90 minutes at his age. But going up at that atmosphere under the lights at Hillsborough, I think we're going to need experience, and I think Jerome and Kieran Lee will probably both start.
Be interesting to see who does
alongside Dion.
I feel sorry for Victor if that's the case, but
alongside Dion, then you think?
Yeah, you can't drop Charles.
We're doing that next, aren't we?
Sorry.
It'd be interesting to see who does start. And yeah, I just want to say thank you all for popping your comments on. Once upon a time, if we lost, no one would be here and we'd be talking to ourselves. So it's nice to see you all actually getting on board and talking to us, albeit a little busy.
No, it's mega. I'd echo that. Them thoughts. Definitely, it's really good to see, and as well, like seeing new people in there as well, which is good again. So make yourself known if it's your first watch. It'd be good to see if that's the case.
Indeed, you're more than welcome.
Don't make it your last.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to share your thoughts on what we're talking about as we go along. Every comment usually gets looked at. We try not to miss any, and we'll pull a couple into the show as we go through. But looking ahead to Sheffield, in for a tough game. There's no denying that. Sheffield haven't.
Colin,
are we in for a tough game against a team who's almost gone half a season?
They've lost a match.
I think we'll be all right.
It will be.
No wonder it's not sold out.
I know. Yeah.
We needed a points ticketing system structure a few weeks ago.
They are on the second allocation though now.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
I think the expense of Wembley has probably caught a few people.
Oh, not half, yeah. Yeah,
but we haven't beaten Sheffield in any of our last 6.
Not called Sheffield. Sheffield Wednesday. 2 teams in Sheffield.
Sheffield Wednesday, of course.
Oh, isn't he Aggie when he's rough?
I
hear people say Sheffield. I heard it the other day on another podcast. Who was it? Yeah, it was. Is he called Darren? Or it's not Darren. On the Wanderers podcast.
Daryl, that's my cousin.
Daryl. Yeah, he said it. Sheffield. I think is he from Sheffield, isn't he, as well, or that way on somewhere?
Daryl is my cousin. He's from Harwich.
All right.
Chris Burton has suggested you have a Lucasade, Colin. That might help.
I've actually got some Lucasade, Chris. So get some in a minute.
Crack it open, bloody hell!
All right. Bolton have not beat Sheffield Wednesday in any of their last 6 meetings, with their last win coming in, I think, the October of 2017. Obviously, as Colin said, Sheffield haven't lost a league game in half a season. That dates back to October. So it's all stacking up against us, it feels like. A really tough game. Really, really tough game. What are you expecting from it, other than a tough game, Colin?
I'm expecting endeavour. I'm expecting a reaction of some description. I'm expecting us to play the game and not the occasion. But yeah, I'm also expecting a pretty difficult game. But I think it's going to be 2-1 to us and Kieran Lee will score winner.
Oh, and a prediction.
Now that
feeling Kieran Lee. Last 10 minutes.
An interesting night in Sheffield.
1-0 up. 1-0 up. We'll go 1-0 up. We'll then 1-1, and then sexy Kieran will get a sexy one later on.
And what are you expecting from the game?
Obviously.
Yeah, I probably still am, to be fair, David. Sorry.
Obviously, it's going to be tough. The most Bolton thing ever to do would be to win that after those starts, wouldn't it? So I'll go with Bolton doing a Bolton. I would love Bolton to do a Bolton on a Friday night. in Chef.
Against who? Against who?
Against Chef Weds, I call him.
Oh no, we can't be abbreviating it. Come on.
No, she
I
can.
abbreviate everything.
No, she can. She can abbreviate it. It's providing she's actually saying the full name of the team instead of just Sheffield. Then
Chef Weds.
no, she can.
Do you know what I'm like? I go into every match a nervous wreck. I don't expect anything. I'm waiting to see what they give me. I will be concerned if, like Colin said, there isn't a reaction. We need to see some grit, and we need to see some like hunger. I want to see them want to win it. I want
to see us actually play our own game, because I think over the last few weeks we seem to, for whatever reason, changing our approach and changing the way we play to suit the opposition.
They look petrified on Saturday. They look scared to death. I'm like, what's going on at all?
Do you think that's a tactical issue or a mentality issue?
I think it's probably a combination of both. Because it was clear on Saturday that they were trying to catch them lanky beanpoles at centre half that they've got. They tried to pull them out, weren't they, and put balls in behind them with Dion's pace and Vic on the other side. They were trying to pull them out, and it was obvious because they were just spinning balls inside the right and left channels. But that's not how we will normally be playing. Do you get what I mean? So I don't know why we're doing it. I think we just stick to our own game and just rock up there and try and beat them.
I do think it's going to need a little bit of maturity, like Carl said, on the pitch. I think maybe sit shoulder out and play Kieran, and let's have some sensible heads on that pitch.
Yep, it would do us the world of good. We're going to go to lineups, and we're going to go through our lineup. I think the number one spot is more or less set in stone, unless by
get Dixon in.
Get popping on wrists on.
But let's start with the back three. Who are your well, it is a back five, but let's go with the three. Left centre back, right centre half, and centre half. Who are you having in there, Ange?
It depends on Georgie, doesn't it?
Let's assume everybody is fit, including George and MJ.
Oh God. Georgie J. Santos, tall.
Okay, Cole.
Santos centre half. Gethin Jones, right-sided centre half. And Owen Tall, left-sided centre half.
Chris, you can't play it anymore.
So there are three. So Santos in the middle. I'd have Owen Tall on the left side and Jones on the right side, centre half. And my wing backs would be Conor Bradley on the right wing back, and if he's fit, George Johnson on the left side of defence, because we're going to need to be solid defensively, and we're going to effectively need to have five at the back. And you know, he does offer a little bit going forward as well, but we're not going to have that option as often as we normally do. So yeah, I'd go solid and Johnson left wing back.
It's a shout actually, Carl.
Chris, when Colin was showing you where he'd put Santos, he was actually just sticking his finger up at you. He just didn't want to say it.
I weren't, Chris. I weren't.
I think mine would be Johnston, Santos, and I'm going to agree with Colin and go actually Jones at right centre half. Obviously, Cole's given us his wing backs.
Obviously Connor.
Yep.
But then I would just play DJ, but I don't know. I didn't put Geth on my back line, did I?
Don't believe so.
Oh, but then I know. Oh, I don't know.
It's good job you don't sit in the office at
good job not here ever, innit?
We can skip one
backs then. Not me either.
But we'll leave out wing backs. Your midfield three. So two centre midfielders and a and a number 10. Colin?
I know this one. Can I go next?
Yeah, go on.
Asimov for Kyle Dempsey, Kieran Lee.
Straightforward.
Morley, Thomason, and Dempsey.
Savamichi.
It feels like everyone's just trying to like Colin up tonight or something.
Yeah, I'm not reading it anymore. I've ignored it.
Look what you've
Hayden agrees with me, though, by the way. Thomason's to start.
I'd have Thomason on my bench. But
Thomason, Dempsey, and Morley.
It's an interesting start. It'd be interesting to see whether Thomason is brought straight back into the starting lineup or not. But I would go with Dempsey, Morley, and I think the same as you, Ange, Kieran Lee. Your top two, Colin. So I'm just reading this chat. And it's
Come on, get your professional head on now. Dion Charles and Kieran Lee just behind.
Angela, who are you having?
Oh, Angela.
Or Claire, whichever you prefer.
Dion Charles, obviously, because I would never drop Dion Charles. Let's go Vic again. I'm going to go Vic again.
Vic, okay. I think my choice would be Dion, and I'm going to go Jerome and perhaps see how that pans out for 60 minutes or maybe even a half. And if things don't pan out, then look to bring Victor on. I'm just going to read through some of the options for our two centre forwards. So coming in first is Arthur Ganua. Dan Sumner has suggested Salva Ballester up front.
You don't even know who that is, will you, Ben?
I don't, to be honest.
No, I think you would do. Good shout, Dan.
Oh, God.
Tom has suggested Gerald Sid.
You know who he is?
Nope.
Gerald Sid was centre half that played for us under Megson and Sammy Lee, I think. And he played one of his best games away at Bayern Munich. And I couldn't believe that he was even playing. He said, "Yeah." Quick story about that. We're in a bar in Munich, and we got chatting to a load of Bayern fans, and they were saying, "Oh, looking forward to seeing Anelka, Jaskalainen, Kevin Nolan, naming of all our players." And literally, our men haven't started. So I was thinking to them, they don't even know any. We don't even know any of these are, including Gerald Sid. Sorry, yeah. It's a true story, though.
Danny has suggested Josh McGuinness. Chris Burton has said Claire Abbott up front. For those of you who watched the last episode, you don't know exactly what we're talking about. Sito and Kumbenny has been chucked about. Clayton Donaldson, I'm sure he'd get his boots on for us. Yeah,
provided not paid.
Some corkers coming in. But whoever does, and Brandon's just said we forget we have Kachunga.
Yeah.
Give Colin a reason to get his little jingle back out.
Yeah.
Oh yes. What a delight that would be.
Yeah.
It's a selected
And, you're killing me off you lot today.
Final option for the number 9 spot is Talal Al-Hamad. And that's coming from Danny.
Can I just, before we move on, I just want to add something about this this Wigan stuff. I think that rivalry that's grown between Bolton and Wigan is healthy for both teams, and I don't see it doesn't fit well with me when Wanderers fans, especially given what we've been through, are jumping on Wigan and taking the piss of the fact that they probably or very well maybe going into administration again, because two things really. Staff aren't getting paid. We all know what that's been like. Obviously, our staff are on food banks and all that type of situation at that time. I think times are really hard for a lot of people, including people who work for football clubs. Yes, there's a rivalry there, but I think we should just be a little bit like, just respect the fact that we've been through a lot of shit ourselves, similar to that, and it's not very good us taking the piss out of them for that, because it's a shocking situation. And I just wanted to just put that out there. You know, when you see people saying help it liquidate and all that type of stuff, it just doesn't sit well with me. So leave it out.
I absolutely mirror that. I think that there's a fine line between, banter and, taking it to the extreme and wishing that a club is liquidated. And I think the people that do wish that are very, perhaps short-sighted. They don't realise that actually a football club being liquidated doesn't just mean that a club's, gone down the drain. That's a loss of jobs. That's a loss of income. That's, huge stress for families.
Well, I worked in Wigan for quite a while, a few years ago, and the very, very, very hard working class people, and that football club to that town means an awful lot in terms of what it brings to them.
We're all working hard work.
Well, yeah, no, I know, but then what would you would consider salt of the earth? There's no other than there aren't as many. That's terrible, but
we've all got our clown fan base. They had 20 idiots turn up at our stadium. We've got a similar amount of idiots, and anybody who loves the game of football doesn't want any football club to go bust. A lot of it is going to be banter, but everyone's going to have their own opinion on it, aren't they?
Absolutely. I mean, ship them down to non-league. That's fair enough. But
yeah, get them down. Point deduction. Bye. I don't want to see any football club go bust. No. But sit and proper test again, innit?
It is indeed.
Where's the EFL with this sort of shenanigans?
It'll be interesting to see how that situation pans out and what comes of it. Funny enough, before the podcast, I watched their post-match interview with their manager, and there was a clear, frustration and even anger, I think actually would be the better way of putting it, directed towards the owners and the situation as a whole.
I haven't been bloody paid, has it? I'd be angry too.
Yeah.
Well, did he leave a position to take that over that job, or did he move roles, or what? Because obviously, he'll have been promised X, Y, and Z, wouldn't he? He's only been there, for a short period of time. It's not a Wigan podcast. I just wanted to just chuck that in there because it riles me, to be honest.
Absolutely. We're going to move on slightly to a point that I've seen knocking around on Twitter. It seems to be doing the rounds again, which I think we have touched on slightly, but, we'll go into it again. January signings, have they made an improvement or not? I think there's two ways of looking at it. First of all, perhaps the short-term improvement, is that there? And the long-term improvement, although that we obviously can't see it, is the direction there for there to be an improvement. Whichever way you want to look at it, feel free to give me an answer. And if you are watching at home, let me know what you think. Do you think the January signings have made an improvement to our squad? And what do you think?
I think we spoke about this previously, and it's really hard to make that call at this point. But if we are judging it from this short-term point, it doesn't feel like they've made a massive impact. I see massive potential there for them to make an impact down the line, and maybe at the end of the season, hopefully by the end of the season, they will, and some of the new strikers will start bagging, and we keep breaking them. They can't play. They keep breaking. So it's really hard to comment. But those people who write them off at this point, you need to just give your heads a wobble, because they've not had any time whatsoever to adapt the way they play, to fit into our system. Like, they all keep breaking because it's so high intensity. We've had loads of injuries. We're swapping and changing all the time. It's felt like a really hard window to come into for those players. I think last season, the season before, that January transfer window was really strong, but it was a quite a stable team around them. So yeah, I feel sorry for him. I really do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I would echo that, to be fair. Andrew's just said a lot of them scenarios are a massively contributing factor, circumstantial as well. All I would say to add to it, and I don't want to go on too much because I think Andrew's absolutely nailed it, to be fair. But we are under more of a microscope, or they are as players under more of a microscope this season. The pressure's higher this season than it was last season. There's an expectation now from the fan base, for us to secure that playoff spot. And I think that's another contributing factor towards the impact that they're making, because obviously, they're not. Yeah, the confidence isn't there at the moment, but yeah, there's the pressure of where we're at as well as a bigger one, because short time, for example, for Sloan and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Brandon's on fire tonight, and he said it's the injuries that have ballsed us up. It's not the business. And Tom has said the circumstances haven't helped, more or less mirroring what both of you have said there. Chris Dawson has said the plan was to bed them in. We then had 8 first-team injuries, so they were thrown in at the deep end, which is another really good point. Certain circumstances really haven't helped our cause at all. And Danny has said, I feel for some of them, such as Mbete. Confidence is so big for a footballer, especially for defenders. Another good point. Had Johnston not gone off injured, I think it's highly likely that Mbete might have had more minutes in less intense games that would have built up his confidence, that when he was called upon to come into the team, he was firing on all cylinders, which just unfortunately
I think
hasn't.
Given all these permutations that we're talking about, the fact that we're in the mix and so comfortably-ish in the playoffs is testament to them, really, because we obviously have had quite a lot of turmoil, haven't we, really, with injuries and whatnot. Just to be a little bit more positive about the situation.
And I know we don't like to talk about it being out of our hands, but Christ almighty, thank God for the results that went the way they did on Saturday.
Well, yeah.
We absolutely need some of that luck, because we're not creating our own at the minute.
Indeed, and long may it continue for the teams around us. I think that wraps up today's episode, unless either of you got anything to add. One thing I will comment on before we go, if you have watched tonight's episode and you are keen to catch up on some of the previous episodes, or perhaps catch up on the bits that you might have missed this evening, you can do just that over on Spotify, and we are now on Apple Podcasts. Chris Dawson, this is an extra special mention to you. We are on Apple Podcasts. You can find us over there, and yes, catch up on all the episodes, give us a listen, and if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you should just subscribe to the channel. It really does help us out.
I've got one as well. Sorry, Ben. On the Apple one, I don't know how Spotify works because I don't use it, but give us a rating as well, a 5-star rating, because that goes a long way towards getting us up the algorithms.
Indeed, it does. Same on Spotify. You can drop us a rating. And if you follow the podcast, I think all the episodes should appear in your library and you'll be good to go. Socials are all at the bottom of our screen. If you happen to be listening back on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, because you can find us there now, it's at the Fanzone Pod for all of our socials. Instagram is at the Fanzone Podcast. But if you head over there, we do a number of things. We run competitions, giveaways, all sorts. So get yourself over there. Also, it is Mother's Day very, very soon. And if you would like to get your hands on a nice little Mother's Day treat, you can do exactly that. If you head over to the Bolton Gin Company, they have a wonderful range of gins and all sorts going on over there. We've had the fruit salad one recommended to us. And if you use the code FANZONE10, so all in capitals, FANZONE10, you'll get yourself a nice little 10% discount at checkout. Brandon has just remembered it's Mother's Day. So, Brandon, if you're over the age of 18, head over to the Bolton Gin Company, get yourself a nice bottle of gin for the mother. I think that just about rounds it off.
Yeah.
You were a good cabin crew, actually, Ben.
I I was hoping we could finish the episode without anyone mentioning that, but we've done it that many times. It's just becoming second nature now.
And I'd like to apologise about my hungoverness. To be honest with you, it's new to me this because up until recently I've never got hangovers, but since I've turned
your age,
35, I've started getting up, which is
Don't grow up, it's a trap.
Yeah.
It really is.
On that note, that rounds up this evening's episode. We will catch you all again. Details to come to you very soon on when the next podcast is. We might have a little change, which might throw you all off, but we will get that over to you. Keep an eye on our Twitter for all of that good stuff, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.
See you all at Hillsborough.
Bye.
Indeed.